Hi, I'm Kendall with the Rawls Group. The old African proverb, "it takes a village," illustrates the essential nature of a team approach to succession planning. Succession planning is a complex endeavor. As such, it requires leveraging the expertise of a diversity of backgrounds. Collaboration and different expert opinions provides a 360-degree approach, ensuring the possible, probable, and potential issues impacting your long-term vision are addressed. To provide insight into common questions received from business owners, we are leveraging the village of our valued strategic relationships. As you listen to this episode, you'll be able to immediately apply the key takeaways and you'll come back for more. Now we're going to focus on, can you share recommendations on communication tactics when you don't necessarily have the answers?
One of the more common mistakes that leaders can often make, in my opinion, is the belief that you have to always know the answer to everything. It's okay to be unsure about certain things, especially if it's something so unique, unexpected, or unplanned as this current pandemic is an example. Our approach to this situation and in our normal operations is really to not be afraid of the unknown and not to feel like we have to have an immediate answer. It's okay to indicate that we don't know the impacts, or we don't know the results, or we don't know the steps that we're going to take right now. But you can and should instill confidence that not only are you aware of the issue, but that you're taking steps to better understand or identify what you can do to respond. Maybe that's additional research. Maybe that's just waiting. Maybe that's speaking with other folks. But being able to say, I'm not sure right now, but we know this is an issue, and here's how we're trying to get more information is certainly a far better approach than either trying to ignore it, or maybe even worse, feeling like you have to have all the answers and thus providing something that's inaccurate, incomplete, or even misleading. At GSFS, we focus on always ensuring or trying to ensure that our communications are upfront, open, honest with each other, and it's really served us well in times like today.
Yeah, when a problem arises in a business, it's very rare we're going to have all our ducks in a row. There are going to be gaps. And the first question that usually comes up is, do we stay silent and wait until we can fill those gaps and send one pretty communications package that's wrapped up with a bow? Or do we start sending just bits of information that we have? And that's going to look a little different from an internal communications plan to an external client communications plan. I recommend starting with your internal plan. It's important that your staff and employees know what's happening and they have an honest picture from you, because what your goal is to not let that notorious game of telephone happen. If you only speak to your leadership team and that trickles down through people leaders, you cannot control that staff at all levels is getting the same message. So you want to make maybe one face within your business the speaker on this issue and let them speak about it consistently in a method that any employee can listen to or watch. Now that could be a town hall, that could be recorded Zoom meetings, or that could even be an email newsletter with a Q&A section. This is important for your employees to understand what's happening and to be able to voice their questions, because you might not realize how it's affecting employees at different levels or what type of questions are coming in from clients. Your employees are going to need canned responses and the ability to have maybe an open door policy to speak to people about the concerns that they have. Because with client communications that are going out, if you don't brief your employees on what's happening first, you can't control that they can communicate with clients the way you want them to. So that's why speaking consistently and honestly with your employees is very important in these situations. Now, with an employee conversation, it's okay to also answer a question with, "I don't know right now." But I recommend always following that up with, "I'm going to find out, and this is a priority to me," and then doing it. The worst thing is to let that drop off, so you're going to want to develop a system for keeping track of these questions and getting back to them. That's going to build so much trust within your organization. So that should be a priority. And then with client communications, with an external communication, you might not have to speak to clients as quickly and give them all the little pieces as early as you do your employees. It's going to look different based on the type of situation that you have. But that doesn't mean you have to stay silent on the issue. It's an opportunity for building trust with your clients as well. Staying silent means that your clients might develop a picture in their minds about what you're doing in this situation. So don't let that happen. Let them know this issue is important to us. We've put a team on it. This is what our end goal is, and we're going to keep you updated. And then send regular updates. Those might be a little more spread out than in your internal team, and that's okay. Just make sure you're saying something and that everyone knows who they can go to with questions, because that is going to build a lot of trust during times of uncertainty.
The first step is I make sure I understand what the question is, because on any number of occasions I have found myself answering the question that I had wished they had asked rather than the question that they actually asked. So step number one is make sure you know what the question is. Step number two is use one of these 4, what we would call magic phrases, to reply. They all begin with the words, "That's interesting," or something like that. And then each of the 4 questions is, why would you say that? That's interesting, why would you think that? That's interesting, why would you do that? Or that's interesting, why would you ask that? And then you can begin to listen to their response. And what I have learned over time is that often they will begin answering the question that you don't have the answer for, either because you didn't understand it, or even if you did understand it, you don't have the answer. And they will begin to suggest to you what some of the answers might be. And you can get back, and as they're giving you some feedback, then you can say to them, well, how will that help you with the question that you've asked? So that's an interesting observation. How's that going to help you with the question that you've asked? And get them to the position where what they're really doing, because they probably have a sense that they already know the answer to the question that they've asked, they just want confirmation. So part of what you can then begin to do is confirm that, well, what you're suggesting has some real possibilities. And then you can say, and here's what's important to me about how we implement the suggestions that you've made. What's important to you about how we do this, so that you can give them some additional guidance based on what would be consistent with the way you want the business to run. Then the last thing that you want to check is to make sure that you answer in a language that they can understand. Now, I'm not talking about the difference between English and French and German or Russian or any of those. I'm talking about, are they speaking in a visual language? Do they see things? Do they like the way things look? Do they get a picture? Or do they listen with their ears? And do they like the way an answer sounds? Does something ring a bell? Does it ring true? Or you use another system that's called auditory digital, which is where they're thinking. And here's what I've been mulling around. Because if you answer in a language that they don't normally use, they're not going to get your answer, and then they're going to walk away frustrated, and so are you. So those are the steps. Use the 4 magic phrases, reframe or rephrase the question, state what's important to you and ask what's important to them, and make sure that you answer in a language that they understand. Got it? See what I'm talking about? Do you hear me?
Thank you to our strategic partners, The Village, for participating and sharing your perspective. Do you have a burning question you want to discuss with an expert? Feel free to submit it via the Ask an Expert link featured on the page. Continue to listen to this series now or come back later for more. Each question featured may want you to learn something new.